If you're among those of us who have to work this Sunday, we know just the place for you. You'll have to make your way to Tokyo. But once you get there, there's a spot that's the perfect mix of business and pleasure. Elizabeth Palmer takes us to what's come to be called the Deadline Cafe.
Tokyo's famous themed cafes usually feature animals. Cats, pigs, hedgehogs. The vibe is pleasure and play, quite unlike the newest edition that's all about work.
On this busy intersection sits Tokyo's latest pop-up cafe. It's called the Manuscript Cafe, and it's for people who not only have a writing project, but crucially have a deadline. Let's go see.
The mood is serious. A handful of customers sit at workstations glued to their computers, watched over by Takuya Kawai, owner and, well, chief enforcement officer. A fee of about $2.50 an hour gets you fast Wi-Fi, air-cooled computer stands, and Mr. Kawai himself. I try not to hover, he says, not to pressure them too much, but I check their progress every 30 minutes. Hiro Sekiguchi has come to write a lecture due tomorrow. On his registration slip, he's asking to be checked, or you might say gently harassed, every half hour till he's done. Writers are procrastinators. Faced with a blank page, or more likely a screen these days, they'll find a million ways to avoid getting down to work. Well, not here. Kawai is making sure of that with Mr. Takahara, who's racing to finish a manga cartoon. Your aim was 24 pages, he says. How are you doing? Don't worry, he answers. I'm right on track. With the constant roar of traffic in a nondescript suburb, this place isn't what you'd call charming, except for the movie memorabilia and a wall of old technology in the bathroom. But what really counts here is getting it done. Part of the secret, says Hiro Sekiguchi, is the lack of distraction.
I'm comfortable working here.
And focused.
Yeah, focused.
Greater Tokyo is the most populous metropolitan area in the world. So a quiet place away from this hustle to concentrate and create is precious.
It's 20 to 4 in the afternoon, and Mr. Oguchi behind me has finished. Mr. Oguchi,
Hi.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
How many hours did it take?
1時間半ぐらい。
1.5, he tells me.
Why did you write better and concentrate better here?
時間が限られて
I had a tight deadline, and of course I was paying for it.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Here's Roxana Saberi with a story about taste put to the test.
The taste test is mighty important too.
Over the decades, taste testing hasn't changed much. That's because Sebastian Michaelis says it works.
11-11.
For this master taster,
Course.
grading tea involves math
12-13 hard.
and multiple senses.
Yeah, I think a bit soft, maybe a bit stewy. What is the zing? What is the colour? What is the sparkle? What is the body? For each of those parameters, we will grade teas between 1 and 40.
For a novice, zing means how much flavor hits your mouth.
So for me, the zing feels like a 5 or 6. And for you?
This is more like a 19.
Oh, really? Okay, I'm way off.
But it's okay.
It took Michaelis years, comparing hundreds of brews a day, to detect the subtle differences.
39.
His taste buds are now so discerning,
30,
British teamaker Tetley
38.
has insured them for nearly $1.5 million.
The most important thing for us is that the consumer, the person who's making their cup of tea, isn't getting a weird experience. We have to make sure it's always consistent.
And how consistent is it?
Very consistent. We've been doing this for, over 100 years.
For each palate, there is a flavor that is just right.
Food firms have long relied on seasoned palates
This personal testing of aroma
and focus groups to predict if we'd like a new product.
that is as scientifically objective as the scientists can devise.
But this serious science is far from perfect.
Yeah, I'm not really tasting the bacon at all. Are you kidding me?
After all, we're only human.
Okay.
That's why tech companies are now trying to teach machines to taste more objectively and precisely than people. At IBM's Swiss lab, researcher Patrick Ruche invented this electronic tongue.
So now it's obtaining measurements.
In under 2 minutes, Hypertaste digitizes a drink's chemical information, then compares it to other liquids using artificial intelligence.
It's 53% likely that this wine is from France.
We can train the system to tell a strong coffee apart from a mild coffee, tell a decaf apart from an espresso.
The scientists say one day it could tell us much more.
Is my drink safe? Is the drink corresponding to the label that's on the bottle? It's about automation, it's about scale, and it's about speed.
But mimicking our sense of taste isn't easy. Our tongues have thousands of taste buds. And taste also involves the nose, which uses hundreds of smell receptors that scientists say can distinguish at least 1 trillion odors. In Silicon Valley, tech startup Aromics says it's cloned the genes behind almost all of those receptors to measure how they respond to flavors and aromas.
So you're trying to create a digital representation of taste and smell.
Exactly, right.
Josh Silverman is the CEO.
We can give that information back to the companies to say, here's how you can change your recipe to better suit the consumers that you're going after. Our goal is not to put any of the current flavorists or perfumists out of business, but now they have tools to be able to do things they were never able to do before.
Thin, soft, dull.
Back at Tetley, Michaelis says technology can't beat humans' ability to taste and create. At least, not yet.
Do you think that a computer one day could be more objective than you, more accurate?
Do I think it will ever be possible? Hopefully not in my lifetime.
After your lifetime?
Never say never.
We sent our Jim Axelrod in search of the perfect cup of coffee, and he found it in the back of a New York City bodega.
In the shadow of the Manhattan Bridge in Brooklyn, Khalid Sharafi is restocking his supply of Colombian beans for the coffee bar inside the grocery store he runs with his cousin, Omar Hamed.
One black, one cream and sugar. You guys have lots of people coming in here, right? To the coffee bar right up at the front? Yeah. And they're drinking Colombian, right? Yeah. That coffee?
But when it comes to filling their own cups, forget the coffee bar.
No, we have a secret place. A secret place? Speakeasy. A coffee speakeasy. Yeah.
And in their backroom coffee speakeasy, where they brew it old school. You can forget the Colombian beans as well.
What do you drink in the back room?
Yemeni coffee.
Omar and Khalid are from Yemen, which is also home, they say, to the world's best coffee.
Yeah, Yemen coffee is the grandfather of all coffees.
How old is the tradition of coffee drinking in Yemen?
So the coffee started in the middle of 14th century.
Ibrahim al-Hasbani is an 8th generation Yemeni coffee merchant.
Low acid.
Low acid.
So it's not going to bother your stomach.
Doesn't have aftertaste.
And there's a natural sweetness.
Yes.
Do you think that is because of the soil or the sun or the kind of water?
All of this makes the Yemeni coffee special.
He estimates there are as many as 5,000 Yemeni-owned bodegas in New York City. Just about every one with a back room where they keep the good stuff.
So if I walked into their bodega and said, can I get a cup of Yemeni coffee, what would they say?
To sell Yemeni coffee? No, they said, we don't have. But if you're a friend with them, maybe they're going to give from the back.
Take the bodega Monif Ziad runs in East Harlem.
You order your coffee?
Where, sure enough,
she wants black iced coffee. This is for you, right?
It's Colombian up front. But in the back?
This is all Yemeni coffee.
It's all Yemeni coffee.
Ziad keeps half a dozen different varieties in his back room, brought by friends and family visiting from Yemen. Some more coarsely ground, others not as dark. One so mellow it doesn't need milk, another so strong it'll knock your socks off.
Like, you know, instead of to do double shot from Starbucks or from Dunkin' Donuts, you just use one shot from this.
Oh, that smells good.
No sugar, no milk.
There's no sugar, no milk.
Nothing.
Yeah, just black.
Just straight black.
So, if the Yemeni coffee is top shelf,
It's different.
That's off the charts.
Yeah.
why not sell it up front? A civil war, drought, and spiking shipping costs have sent Yemeni coffee prices soaring, particularly problematic for Al Hasbani, one of the few to try taking it from the back room to the front counter, opening up Kawa House, a chain of Yemeni coffee shops.
What's it cost for you to bring in a shipment of Yemeni coffee beans?
The last shipment cost me around $400,000.
Wait. Your last shipment of Yemeni coffee cost you $400,000?
Yes.
If you were to get the same shipment, same size of Colombian beans, what would that cost you?
60,000, around 60,000.
Which is why, for the most part, Yemeni coffee is not for the pour and go crowd.
All right, $3.50.
And so for now, just about every Yemeni selling coffee will keep stocking the Colombian up front to make a better living, and continue to drink the good stuff in the back to make a better life.
It's luxury. It's not daily basis coffee, for now.
But for you, is it?
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I could use some caffeine. How about a quick espresso with Seth Doan?
The vibrant southern Italian city of Naples seems to run on espresso.
It's a very exciting city.
Is any of that due to its love for coffee?
Yes.
This is packed in here.
It's like a temple.
And coffee here is like a religion. Café Gambrinus was established before Italy was, back when Naples was a kingdom.
We're talking about coffee, you know, it's just like talking about the pizza, you know. It's part of our tradition. And it's part
Marcello Uzzi offers high-end tours of his city and says this is a regular stop. Espresso, simply called coffee here, takes about 30 seconds to brew, a little less than that to drink.
Okay, please, next time, take your time.
Moreno Faino works for Italian coffee powerhouse Illy.
How many cups of coffee do you think you have in a day working here?
Roughly 10.
He says it's a real shame to simply knock it back.
Think about what happened before the 50 beans were selected. How many people was involved in preparing the right cup of espresso, and then you have to appreciate the balance, the right level of bitterness and the sourness and sweetness.
Uno medio, uno piccolo.
There's so much to know that Illy developed a university of coffee at its headquarters in the northeastern port city of Trieste.
There are more than 140 rules that can affect the final result in the cup. 16 grammi.
Yes, rules. Barista Stefano Giannini is a sort of coffee professor at Illy.
What exactly is espresso? If you consider from Latin expressum, it means under pressure. This is the way we extract the coffee.
Italians invented this highly calibrated method of preparation. But first, the beans must be roasted and ground just right, an art in itself. Illy imports coffee beans from about 24 different countries, and at any given time has around 100,000 bags of it on hand. That is enough to brew more than 650 million cups of coffee. That seems just about enough to fuel the city of Naples. Which brings us back
Hi, Seth. Hey. How are you?
to Marcello Uzzi.
This is your local spot?
Yes, this is it.
There is a bit of competition here among different Italian cities. Who has the best coffee?
How can you compete with our coffee? It's impossible. Cheers.
Indeed, espresso is brewed under pressure, with a fair dose of passion and pride.
You see.
Earlier, we told you about instant coffee. Now the subject is real coffee. Or is it? Jim Gaffigan, whose Amazon Prime special Quality Time starts streaming next weekend, shares some thoughts.
America. I love it. But we live in such a divided country. Red states, blue states, liberal, conservative. Each side thinks the other is wrong. I believe it's our civic responsibility to focus on the real problem, people. Those fellow citizens who are frankly destroying the true fabric of this great nation. I think everyone knows who I'm talking about. The decaf drinkers. We've put off dealing with these coffee frauds for too long, people. Now I understand there may be some decaf drinkers living amongst us. Maybe a decaffer is watching with you right now and drinking their dirt liquid. My objective is not to make them feel bad. So please do me a favor. Turn down their hearing aid. I'll wait. Thanks. These decaf weirdos have lost sight of the true purpose of coffee. Coffee should have caffeine in it. Everyone knows that. It's in the Bible, for God's sakes. Heck, even the way coffee is spelled, it looks like the person who wrote it had too much coffee. Coffee is not just some brown beverage we foolishly stand in line and pay too much for. Coffee fuels the engine of America and magically makes other humans palatable. If there was no real coffee, America as a country would literally stop. And so would many of our digestive systems. I resent how decaf is presented as some logical alternative to coffee. A server might ask, would you like regular or decaf? Do I look pregnant? Don't answer that. In hotel rooms, there's always 1 packet of regular coffee and 2 packets of decaf, as if every hotel guest has kidnapped 2 grandmas. There are so many reasons to confront these coffee traders. My biggest issue is the inconvenience decaf causes. As someone who briefly worked in the service industry, I know when someone selfishly orders decaf in a restaurant, a whole other pot of fake coffee has to be made. Or a server has to lie and say regular coffee is decaf. That's what I would do. It's unfair to everyone involved. Decaf is un-American. Maybe I'm overreacting. I don't know. I had a lot of coffee this morning. I could go for another cup. Coffee!
And now a page from our Sunday Morning Almanac, August 11th, 1903, 116 years ago today. A day of instant gratification for coffee drinkers everywhere. For that was the day chemist Satoru Kato of Chicago received a patent for his method of making instant coffee, a method that avoided the spoilage that had thwarted earlier attempts. Alas, his brand of instant coffee never achieved commercial success. But the many other brands of instant that followed did create a marketing buzz, not to mention a rich brew of TV commercials, as in this 1981 ad starring actress Lauren Bacall.
Delicious.
In fact, instant is so deeply steeped in our popular consciousness that its absence was grounds for a coffee colloquy of sorts on the Seinfeld TV show.
You don't have any instant coffee? Well, I don't normally. Who doesn't have instant coffee? I don't. You buy a jar of Folgers Crystals, you put it in the cupboard, you forget about it. And later on, when you need it, it's there. It lasts forever. It's freeze-dried.
Though instant will never win over true coffee snobs with their French presses, it's likely to always be valued by the impatient among us pressed for time. As the poet T.S. Eliot wrote in the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock,
I have measured out my life with coffee spoons.
I have measured out my life with coffee spoons.
With cable
cable cars running past its door, the Buena Vista Cafe, opened in 1916, is a San Francisco institution.
Hi, John. I'm John. Paul Nolan, nice meeting you.
And for over 40 years, it's had the same bartender who's been making the same drink that made the Buena Vista famous. How many Irish coffees have you made in 41 years?
It's a guesstimate. They say 4 to 5 million. I just take their word for it. I didn't count them.
If anyone knows the story of how Irish coffee first came to America back in 1952, it's Paul Nolan.
Yeah, the original recipe came from Ireland. The inventor, he gave the recipe to the beat writer for the Chronicle, Stanton Delaplane.
So Stanton Delaplane, who brought Irish coffee from Ireland to here, he was a newspaper guy.
He was a newspaper
He was a
guy.
reporter. So is it proper for me to say that maybe a news reporter is the originator of Irish coffee in America rather than a bartender?
Well, let's just say he conveyed the recipe to the right source.
That recipe? 2 sugars, hot coffee, and of course, the active ingredient.
This is about 1 ounce and a third here of Irish whiskey.
Then the finishing touch, carefully floating a layer of heavy cream on top. An irresistible combination.
And you taste the whiskey.
It's dangerous to do this with a mustache.
Usually we give an extra napkin when people with mustaches.
And nobody drinks only one. Bob Freeman admits he wasn't really an Irish coffee fan when he bought the Buena Vista back in 2001.
At the time, they were doing about 250,000 Irish coffees a year.
250,000 Irish coffees a year?
Yeah, around that number, yes.
You made this because this was a sound business decision, not because of any romantic idea about Irish coffee.
No, I like it. It's a wonderful drink. Matter of fact, now I love it.
And much loved by locals and tourists alike.
There's no experience like being at this table or at that bar and having an Irish coffee at the Buena Vista.
Every week, a truckload of Irish whiskey arrives at the cafe, enough to go through 100 bottles a day. They say the Buena Vista is the world's largest single consumer of Irish whiskey. Not surprising, given the way Paul Nolan pours the stuff.
And just in case I didn't give everybody what they deserve, I always add a little bit more.
Connoisseurs swear this coffee from a far-off land is, well, good to the last drop. Very, very good. And as John Blackstone tells us, for the price, it better be.
Coffee experts call it cupping, the standardized ritual for evaluating coffee beans. The beans under scrutiny at Equator Coffee, a specialty roaster in San Rafael, California, have Equator's co-founder, Helen Russell, reaching for superlatives.
This is a treat. This is passion. This is history. This is drama. This is the best coffee in the world.
It comes from Yemen, a country so racked by war, its coffee has been largely out of reach for decades, until a young man from America, Mukhtar Al-Kansali, decided to go and get it.
If I knew that I was going to go through a war-torn country, escape bullets and airstrikes, and leave on a boat across a giant ocean, I would have never started this journey.
The trip started when he saw a century-old statue in San Francisco, a Yemeni monk with a cup of coffee to his lips, the logo for the Hills Brothers Coffee Company.
I saw it, I started remembering stories of my grandparents, my mother. When I was younger, my family took me back to Yemen quite a bit, and so I remembered picking coffee cherries with my grandmother.
The connection he felt to coffee drew him back to ancient villages in Yemen, a country his parents left before he was born, a place where for hundreds of years, coffee has been grown on steep mountain terraces.
I went to about 32 different regions across Yemen. It was a very interesting time for me because I didn't realize how crazy of a place it was going through the political instability.
Yemeni farmers are said to have been the first to cultivate coffee. Cut off from the international market for years, their standards had been falling.
So I realized the way it was picked and processed was very arbitrary, and so I had to slow down and begin working with them hands-on. And that looks like building them raised drying bed systems, giving them moisture analyzers. But probably the biggest thing was giving them microloans. The first year, we paid for 6 weddings. And they paid us back in coffee cherries.
Getting the coffee out of Yemen with bombs falling forced Mukhtar to escape in a small boat across the Red Sea, carrying with him coffee beans from the villages.
Actually, when I escaped on the boat, it was a big deal for them. One village, I had a huge meeting, and they realized how committed I was for them. And if it wasn't for their hard work and their belief in my vision, I wouldn't be able to do this work.
Back in America, James Freeman of Blue Bottle Coffee was among the first to taste the beans Mukhtar had carried out of Yemen.
You know, it was stunning, stunning coffee.
And Blue Bottle started selling it at a stunning price, $16 a cup. When you're offering this coffee at $16 a cup, is it an act of charity to buy it?
No, I think it's an act of sensory pleasure. It has to be an amazing transporting experience for us to be able to justify that price.
People are willing to pay more for coffees if they know it has a social impact. Luckily, these coffees also are just really wonderful coffees.
That price begins with farmers in Yemen being paid a fair price, then rises with the cost of transporting the coffee out of the remote mountains and exported from a country in conflict to a package here in America.
If I want to help my farmers, I have to make sure their coffees are great. When someone pays $16 for a cup of coffee, it better be a good coffee.
Today's special is actually a threefer, a trio of trendy foods our Susan Spencer will explore throughout the morning, beginning now.
The ominous warning signs are there. Pumpkin spice is taking over the world.
Certainly the pumpkin spice latte was the one product that really expanded into other foods.
Starbucks launched its pumpkin spice latte in 2003, and the dam broke. Meet pumpkin spice Oreos, Twinkies, cereal, even pumpkin spice Hershey's Kisses. It feels like it's almost illegal not to have a food that is flavored with pumpkin spice.
Well, pumpkin pie spice is one of those symbolic fall flavors.
Jill Pratt is a bona fide pumpkin spice expert. You've now got pumpkin spice pet shampoo.
Yeah.
What's going on?
That's a little unusual.
If you really want your dog to smell like a pie, you can do this.
Well, they've smelled worse.
Pumpkin spice deodorant.
I've not experienced that product.
Body lotion?
Well, that I can see, right?
Of course you can. You work here. Pratt works as VP of Marketing at McCormick Spice Company in Hunt Valley, Maryland. You do realize that your dress is the color of pumpkin pie.
It might have occurred to me this morning.
If there is a pumpkin spice central command, this is it. McCormick actually calls its blend pumpkin pie spice. So how much actual pumpkin is in pumpkin pie spice?
So I think that would be a little bit gross if we sold pumpkin in the pumpkin pie spice can. Today there are 4 spices in the pumpkin pie spice blend. There's cinnamon, there's allspice, there's ginger, and there's nutmeg.
McCormick started the magic back in 1934.
Pumpkin pie spice was originally created to make great tasting pumpkin pies.
How quaint that seems.
Cheers. Cheers.
Once you've tasted a pumpkin spice martini,
Have 7 or 8 more of them.
Needless to say, McCormick loves the idea that anything tasty is tastier with a bit of pumpkin pie spice.
We have twice baked sweet potatoes with pumpkin pie spice.
Oh. Can you think of any use that you just absolutely would reject it for?
Pumpkin pie spice asparagus.
Don't say it, somebody will do it. If you think that sounds like the end of civilization, brace yourself. Pumpkin pie spice sales are at an all-time high.
All right, so what do we do
here? We go, just slide it in there.
All right.
And close the handle.
The man who made this cup of joe is no ordinary Joe.
When I was working for GE, I was in the satellite division, so we did put a few satellites on rockets and put them in orbit.
Kevin Sullivan, Chief Technology Officer at Keurig Green Mountain, maker of coffee machines, got his start in aerospace and defense.
Does it take a rocket scientist to make a good cup of coffee?
It helps. So how can we balance our electrical input and our thermal balance so that we make sure it's dispensed and the consumer can walk away?
The idea of making coffee a cup at a time started catching on about a decade ago. It turned out to be a high-tech challenge.
This gives you an idea of the technology.
This is complicated.
It's very complicated.
Because it can't be complicated for the guy trying to wake up in the morning.
You just close the handle and touch a button, and away it goes.
A cup of coffee in less than a minute. Speed, convenience, and did we mention variety?
You have some really, forgive me, almost ridiculous flavors.
Thank you.
Pumpkin spice.
Pumpkin spice, mountain blueberry.
French toast.
French toast.
Today, single-serve machines are in 1 out of every 3 American homes.
What happened to the percolator? Remember that?
I think they're all in the basement.
Yeah, and then we had drip coffee.
We
right?
did.
And then along came this and just sort of blew everything else out of the water.
Single serve, I think, found the hidden need, the need that people didn't know they had.
Filling that need has turned Keurig, whose machines can cost a couple of $100, into a $4.7 billion business.
A cup of coffee made this way is not necessarily cheap.
It's less expensive than you go to a coffee shop, but it's more expensive than if you bought a pound of coffee and did your drip grind.
Last year, Americans doled out more than $3 billion on single-serve capsules, brewing up a controversy. What to do with the millions of pods when the coffee's gone?
Frankly, there have been some environmental concerns about making coffee this way. Where is Keurig now in terms of making these things recyclable?
We've been hard at work to solve that problem. We introduced a system called View that has cups that are in fact recyclable. We have a company objective that everything will be recyclable by the year 2020. We certainly aren't going to wait that long. I think we're going to start that much sooner and hopefully convert sooner than that.
Customers apparently aren't much deterred by either environmental concerns or price. These days, a cup of hot coffee is cooler than ever.
It all began with a coffee craving.
I think I got another coffee.
With a tall, cream and sugar-haired guy named Dan Dewey. And this urge he got back in 2006 for a Grande Black Bold Roast. The Starbucks was just down the road from St. Joseph Mercy Hospital outside Detroit, where his dad was getting a chemo treatment. Dan was sitting with his dad and some other patients when Dan announced, "Anyone want a coffee? I'm buying."
A pumpkin caramel?
7 years have passed.
Coffee and coffee with cream.
His dad beat his cancer and stopped coming here long ago.
2 hot chocolates.
So why then is Dan still taking orders?
Nurse Ratchet will have the usual. It's the best job I ever had and I have to pay to do it. That's what I tell people. Thank you. Somebody says, "Can you afford that?" I go, "No, but I'd never had any money anyway. Why not share it?" Gosh, I wish I could read this.
To date, Dan, a retired audiovisual specialist for the local school district, has spent about $10,000 of his own money on frou-frou coffee drinks for cancer patients.
Thank you, thank you.
He buys the drinks, almost too many at a time, and then delivers them to Mercy and now a second hospital across town.
Almost lost it.
It's obviously a very sweet thing to do.
That is pretty.
But oncologist Dr. Rajan Krishnan says Dan's drinks do a lot more than just taste good.
It's just a cup of coffee. What difference can it make?
It's not as much the coffee, it is the coffee is a vehicle for the relationship.
Oh, that looks awesome.
It is.
I saw what he meant.
Just a wonderful person.
78-year-old Anna Burrell is one of his regulars.
Make me feel like somebody cares.
I heard that same sentiment from virtually every one of his customers. They all want to pay him, completely unaware that they already have.
That's all you need. It's just a smile. That's all you need. And I have a memory bank full of wonderful smiles.
And Dan doesn't even see the half of them. I noticed that long after he's moved on to the next delivery, people are still celebrating his presence. Whoever said coffee isn't good for you.